Morning everyone. In this series of videos we're going to look at London by William Blake. In this particular video we'll read the poem and discuss a few different interpretations of what it could all mean. There's a link in the description to the other videos, as well as a link to the slides if you want them. Now let's start by reading the poem. London by William Blake. I wander through each chartered street, near where the chartered Thames does flow, and mark in every face I meet marks of weakness, marks of woe. In every cry of every man, in every infant's cry of fear, in every voice, in every ban, the mine-forged manacles I hear. How the chimney sweepers cry, every blackening church appalls, and the hapless soldier's sigh runs in blood down palace walls. But most through midnight streets I hear how the youthful harlot's curse blasts the newborn infant's tear, and blights with plagues the marriage hearse. Now, not only is London one of the shortest poems in the Power and Conflict cluster, it's also one of my favourite poems in the cluster. I think that Blake does a great job of painting London as being this almost dystopian world full of hypocrisy and inequality between the classes. It reminds me of places like Panem in The Hunger Games, or the London in Orwell's 1984. So what is it actually about? Now, this poem is about a first-person character who is wandering through the streets of London, and every single person that they come across is oppressed and in a negative state. They're all sad and just broken shells of people, really. And the narrator starts to think about the reasons why. It's essentially a reflection of how the people in the poorer classes, such as the chimney sweeps and the harlots, are all living in awful conditions in London. Now, in the late 1700s, early 1800s, the time that the poem was written and the time that Blake lived, London was supposed to be the most powerful and prosperous city on planet Earth. And we see, firsthand from this poem, that that was not the case. Overall then, we see that Blake was not a fan of the establishment. He saw the terrible conditions that the working class were living, and he also saw the lavish way that those in charge were living, and he hated this fracture in society. He was appalled by the injustice. The powerful had the power to change things for the better, but chose not to. The weak had the power to start a revolution, but they chose not to. So, London, the city, was like London the poem. To look at from the outside, everything seems neat and ordered. It looks how it's supposed to look. But on the inside, once you take a closer look, it's full of oppression, poverty, devastating circumstances, injustice, and ultimately, death. London, at the height of the British Empire, was supposed to be a powerful city that could look after its own, but due to the corruption of the establishments such as the palace and the church, it left its people decimated, and Blake wanted this to change. So in this series, we'll look a little deeper at the poem and work out all of its particulars. And that's all for today. Thanks for watching, I hope you found it useful, and if you did, don't be shy with the like and subscribe buttons. It really helps out with YouTube's algorithms and helps the channel. Happy revising!